Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome to the next session of your chapter Emergence of Kingdoms and Republics. In this chapter we were learning about the Ganges Valley 2700 years ago. Many tribes settled down to practice agriculture in the convenient parts of this Gangetic valley. These tribes were called Jana in Sanskrit and the place where they settled was called as Janapada. We came to know about these Janapadas due to the archaeology and the literature. These are some of the important archaeological sites that belongs to those periods, like temples of Hastinapur, ruins of Kaushambi, and ruins of Patliputra. Larger territorial units or large group of such villages and towns were called as Mahajanapadas or Big Janapadas. So we learn from the books of those times that agriculture was managed by landowners called Grahapatis or Gahapatis, who usually worked along with their family members on the fields. But they also employed dasas and slaves who were probably captured in wars and sold to the farmers and workers. Bhartukas or who worked on their fields and homes in return for wages. Some wealthy Grahapatis had more land and slaves to work for them. Usually, the largest landowner became the headman of the village. He was the leader of the village. He was also used by the king to collect taxes from the people. He used to collect taxes from traders, herders, farmers, craftspersons, and hunter gatherers. In most of the villages, the great craftsperson, blacksmiths made tools necessary for agriculture like plough, shade, sickle, axes, arrows, etc. Potters made pots for cooking and storing grains. Carpenter made carts, plows, furniture. Weavers wove cloth for the villagers. The potters made earthen pots. Some of these were grey in color. These were famous and they were called as painted greyware. Plates and bowls are the most common vessels made of painted greyware. These are extremely fine to touch and these were found before the time of Mahajanapadas. Probably the Grahapatis gave them grains in return for their products. Those products were necessary for agriculture, but the Grahapatis may not have had the time or skill to make them. Agrarian surplus and increase in craft product resulted in emergence of trading and exchange centers. So what were the major changes in agriculture? They started using iron plough, heavy and clay soil could be turned into good land and more grain could be produced due to this iron ploughs. And people began transplanting paddy. This led to increase in production as many plants survived. Slave men, women and landless agricultural laborers had to do this work. Most of the Mahajanapadas were ruled by kings. The kings commanded and led their armies in battle. They took personal interest in the welfare of the people. Yagnas and animal sacrifices became very important during the period. Those kings had an army of their own to ensure that people followed their orders and to make sure that no other king attacked their kingdom. They lived in capital cities and tried to build strong forts. All this required a lot of money. The soldiers and their families had to be provided for. The brickmakers who made lakhs of bricks had to be paid for, and thousands of men and women who worked to construct these public buildings had to be paid wages. So, why did the Rajas of Mahajanapads build forts? They built the forts to protect their people from attacks from other kings. Another reason for building of forts might be the desire to show how rich and powerful the Raja was. So, for building these forts, the kings used to collect taxes from the people. They had officers who would collect taxes from the Girahapatis, the craftsmen, the traders. If anyone refused to pay taxes, they could be punished by the soldiers of the king. Officers and army were employees of the king. Therefore, they were bound to follow his order, and the king could ensure that his commands were obeyed by the common people. Many kings wanted to be more powerful and wealthy. They could do this in two ways: by increasing the taxes imposed on the people and by conquering neighboring kingdoms. The kings began to collect regular taxes from the Grahapatis, who cultivated the land. The Grahapatis had to divide their crops into six equal parts and give one part to the king. That was called Bhaga. Craftsmen also had to pay taxes, often by working free of charge for the king for one day every month. Herders of cattle and sheep too had to give the animal produce to the king in the form of tax. Traders were also made to pay tax on the goods they sold, and hunters and gatherers also had to give to the Raja what they got from the forest. In this way, the kings had a variety of goods with them, which they obtained as taxes. During that period, the use of coins had just begun. Some of the taxes were probably in the form of coins. So these are the coins of the Mahajanapada times. These were the punctured coins, punch marked coins. Historians feel that those kings would have persuaded the farmers to grow more crops and adopt better methods of cultivation and irrigation so that production would increase and they would get more taxes. Similarly, they may have encouraged the traders of their kingdoms to trade more in distant places. The kings were also constantly waging wars against each other so that they could bring more territories under their rule. Those wars were probably fought by armies, but they also harmed the ordinary people by destroying crops and burning villages or looting them. Often, people of the defeated kingdoms were enslaved and sold off to Grahapatis, traders, and officials. The term Gana means people of equal status. Sangha means assembly. The Gana Sanghas covered a small geographical area ruled by an elite group. And a kingdom means a territory ruled by a king or queen. In a kingdom, monarchy, a family which rules for a long period becomes a dynasty. Usually, these kingdoms adhere to orthodox Vedic traditions. If you observe this map, you can observe that Magadha is spread on the both sides of the river Ganga. The river made the land very fertile and the Grahapatis could irrigate their lands easily. The river made the land very fertile and the Grahapatis could irrigate their lands easily. The river was also used for transporting goods and armies. Parts of the Magadha were forested. Elephants were captured from there and trained for fighting in the wars. Wood from the forest was used for building palaces and chariots. In the southern part of Magadha, there were iron ore deposits, which could be used for making weapons. All this enabled Magadha to emerge as a very powerful kingdom. Bimbisara and his son Ajatasattu were early kings who built Magadha. So the two more powerful rulers of Magadha are Bimbisara and Ajatasattu. Magadha Empire gained much power and importance during the rule of King Bimbisara and his son and successor Ajatasattu. Bimbisara is said to have been murdered by his son Ajatasattu. The Magadha Empire in India extended in modern-day Bihar and Patna and some parts of Bengal. Magadha Empire was a part of the 16 Mahajanapadas. The empire extended up to river Ganga and the kingdoms of Kosala and Kashi were annexed. The places that came under the Magadha Empire were mostly republican in nature, and the administration was divided into judicial, executive, and military functions. Mahapadmananda was another powerful ruler of Magadha. All these kings used their armies to conquer other kingdoms. During the time of Mahapadmananda, the kingdom extended from the northwestern part of India to Odisha. We should remember that not all Mahajanapadas were ruled by the kings as in Magadha. In some areas, the kings relied upon the people and performed rituals and festivals for the welfare of the entire kingdom. Vaji, a Gana. As I have already told you, Gana means people of equal status. So the Vaji Mahajanapada was to the north of Magadha and it had a Gana form of government, means it has no monarchy or not a single ruler. Ghana was ruled by a group of rulers instead of a single ruler. Sometimes even a number of men ruled together and each of them was called a Raja. So, who was Raja? Some of the Rajas were chosen by the Jana or some were recognized as Raja by performing Ashwamedha. They performed rituals, met and took decisions on issues of common interest in assemblies. Thorough decisions and discussions and debate. However, women, slaves, and wage earners could not participate in those assemblies. Buddha and Mahavira belonged to Ganas and became famous teachers, respected in all Mahajanapadas. Even though the kings tried to conquer the Ganas, they remained active for more than 1500 years. At last, the Ganas were conquered by the Gupta kings, about whom you will read in the next lesson. Children, do you know about Alexander? He was the ruler of Macedonia, Greece. He wanted to become a world conqueror. Of course, he did not conquer the world, but did conquer parts of Egypt and West Asia and came to the Indian subcontinent, reaching up to the bank of the Bays. When he wanted to march further eastwards, his soldiers refused. They were scared as they heard that the rulers of India had vast armies of foot soldiers, chariots, and elephants. Emergence of new thoughts and religions. Being not satisfied with the existing social and religious system in that society, new concepts on religion emerged in that period. Jainism, which is confided by Mahavira, and Buddhism, founded by Siddhartha, belong to that type. They were not satisfied with the Vedic rituals of that period and questioned the authority of the Vedas. Beside those, there were other religions like Lokayata and Ajivaka that questions the supremacy of Vedas. The details of Jainism and Buddhism will be discussed in the coming chapters. Children, do you know the Gandhara school of art developed in the region around Takshashila under the influence of Greek art. Realistic and proportionate and delicate work in stone were some of the characteristic features of that style. Many images of Gautama Buddha have been sculptured in this style. You can see the statue of Buddha in Gandhara art. This is the statue of a ancient Indian warrior from Gandhara art. Hope you all understood. If you have any doubts, we will clear in our live session. Thank you.